This is the Average to Savage podcast with Paul Guarino. Everyone and anyone, athletes, celebs, and much more.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Average Savage podcast. Our special guest today is Jay Jackson. Jay, how's it going?
Great, fantastic. It's a lovely morning.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. I know we've been going back and forth for a little bit. My fault though.
Oh, it's all love.
But yeah, let's just break it down. Let's go back in time a little bit. Like, what's your first memory of playing baseball?
First memory is probably being in Northwood Little League. Oh, just the Little League that I played at growing up. And probably my best earliest memory is probably coach's pitch when my dad was throwing balls to me on every Saturday and just, being in the league, playing with him and my friends and stuff like that. That's probably my earliest memory. I don't remember T-ball as much like some people say they do. I don't understand how people do that, but I remember coach's pitch though, because there's some vivid moments of hitting your first home run and then, hitting. I hit my dad with a line drive like my last year coach's pitch, so it was pretty cool. So there's different like moments from then that I remember more than T-ball.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's funny you said that people remember T-ball. 'Cause somebody asked me the other day, was like, "Yo, do you remember the first like Super Bowl you actually like watched and remembered?" I was like, "No, I can't remember. Like, I don't know. I just there, just like."
Yeah.
But yeah, take me through like a little bit of like how, like maybe like during high school and your recruiting process.
Recruiting process was crazy because I didn't think I was gonna play baseball. I thought I was gonna be a basketball player. I thought I was better at basketball in high school, but I was pretty talented at both, I would say. So a lot of schools I was looking at, I was hoping I could play both, honestly, and try to play basketball and baseball like I was in high school. But the major D1 schools that I was talking to, they were all like, "Hey, we either want you to play basketball or we want you to play baseball," and most of them were baseball. And I figured if I played baseball, I could just go walk on the basketball team and just talk to the coach the next year.
Yeah,
But I ended up choosing Furman out of all the schools, and I committed, and I ended up going there just because the coach told me I could walk onto the basketball team. He's like, "I've already talked to the basketball coach, and we're possibly going to give you a chance, depending on how your freshman year of baseball goes, to allow you to walk onto the basketball team." And I was like, "All right." And I got a lot of scholarship money from him at the time, so it was pretty cool. And I was going to be in my hometown, so it was a lot of awesome factors that went into that. But it was a cool recruiting process. It was basketball and baseball, so I didn't take a lot of like official visits, but I just like really like had basketball and baseball, and it's just like a couple schools that were more interested than others, but ultimately I went where I was supposed to go.
yeah, no, definitely. And that's like a interesting combo. You never really hear baseball and basketball.
Oh yeah, I mean, they just what I fell in love with. My dad told me going into high school. I played basketball, baseball, and football going up into high school. But when I got to high school, my dad was like, "Hey, you need to choose two out of the three so you can focus, so you can also focus on your grades to make sure you're not like slacking in any area." So I chose basketball and baseball. I don't know why. I think it's because I just loved them the most and I had more fun and I didn't get hit. I realized that early on that I was probably going to have a longer career if I wasn't getting hit all the time.
No, definitely. Yeah, and there's always a debate going on, especially nowadays with all the AAU programs and strict like sticking to one sport. So, do you think playing multiple sports helped you?
No, for sure. I think it helps every kid because it keeps you well rounded, keeps you really athletic because you're using different parts of your body for different sports. I mean, you're using mainly the same ones, but you're moving in different ways through, football compared to baseball, compared to basketball. It's really just a matter of, you know, um, like these kids nowadays are getting so specific that it doesn't, I feel like it makes it not as fun for them. I feel like they get burnt out way too fast. Whereas you play in other sports too, you get a chance to, meet other people, have more fun, get away from the game, and so you get to miss it. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what the key is. Like you need to miss it to love it. And I got to go play baseball and basketball and football, so I got to leave all of them and then come back and like jump back into having fun with the sport all over again.
No, definitely that makes sense. And then what about like during your college career? Was there a point that like you knew you could be pro?
Yeah, I knew I could be a pro, I guess, before I went to college. I had some like offers to possibly get drafted as an outfielder or pitcher out of high school, but going to college, I went because again, I thought I was going to be able to play baseball and basketball too, but just the offers to not go to school at the time weren't great. From even the scouts I had talked to, I was just like, it's probably better for me to go to the school I was going to because also Furman was one of the most expensive schools ever to go to, possibly. And it was a really good academic school to go to. So the education I was going to get, I don't think a lot of teams at the time wanted to spend that much in paying for the school after you're done playing baseball and give me that money plus like offer me high in the draft at the same time. So um, that was kind of something.
Yeah, and what was that feeling and getting drafted in 2008 by the Cubs?
It was crazy because I didn't realize I got drafted. I really didn't. I thought I was getting drafted earlier, so I had people over and had a party, and then it didn't happen. Felt really upset and distraught. And then the next day, after the first day when I didn't get drafted, team said they were going to draft me the first couple rounds of the next day. So I sat around. I had a flight that day to go to Cape Cod actually, and I was waiting around. Saw the first couple rounds, didn't get drafted. I think it was like the sixth and seventh round or something like that, or like the fifth and sixth, somewhere in there after the first day. Didn't get drafted, so I was like, all right, well, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to go up to Cape Cod. I'm going to go have fun, blah, blah. And then I got a text like literally right before I was packing all this stuff up and getting ready to go on. Hey, like, congratulations, you're a Cubby, blah, blah, from one of my friends. I was like, what? Like, didn't even realize it. Checked the whole draft order, whatever. Oh, well, we got drafted by the Cubs. Like, so got drafted and then went to Cape Cod anyway for the next couple of days. I think like a week, maybe. I don't even think it was a week. Negotiated with the team a little bit and then started the baseball career after that.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Well, obviously, uh, draft day, as you said, didn't go as you planned, but you got drafted the next day. If you're not a baseball fan, I know some people don't understand like the minor leagues, like some other sports, you kind of just go straight,
Yeah.
to the team. But you guys start in the minors, and I know it's a grind, uh, with especially with the travel. So, like, tell me, tell me a little bit about just like navigating all that.
I mean, at first, it kind of gets to be a headache, I guess you could say that. I was a prospect.
And also, I want to bring up too, was it like better when you were in college, like travel wise and everything?
I think travel wise, it was better because the conference I was in was everybody was so close together. So it was probably a little bit better, like travel wise in college. But like now it's better for the guys since we have every Monday off. But when I was coming up, we were playing so many games and you were traveling at like getting wake up calls at 3 o'clock in the morning to catch the bus at 4:30 to make sure you're at the airport by like 5:15 because you had to catch the earliest flight out to make sure you were at the next city for the game the next day. So it wasn't like we were getting chartered flights or anything. We were on like commercial flights, and that was in AAA and AA and high A. High A, your teams are normally closer because you're normally close to the complexes and stuff, but like double A, you're traveling sometimes 10, 12 hours on a bus and then playing the next day and stuff like that. It's crazy, but it was a grind, but you learn to love the game to a certain point. You know what I mean? Because you see how many guys quit, how many guys fail, how many guys don't make it. It gets to be aggravating and seeing the politics of it sometimes, but like just the experiences that you get, the friends you make, and the baseball you play is just unbelievable. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely a grind, but it's one of those journeys in life that it was worth it. It was so much fun. You got to live your dream to a certain extent for most guys.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then you were in the minor leagues for 8 years before making the major leagues. So making your major league debut, like, what did that feel like? Even because, like, 8 years is a long time.
Making the debut was terrible just because it was a it was a terrible game. I was just really nervous. But once I finally settled in and understood that I could be there and I belonged there, and it just became having fun all over again. But it was a grind, but like I said before, it was a fun grind. A lot of people grind in the corporate world to a certain degree, doing the same thing where they're like, "Hey, I want to be a CEO, or I want to be, you know, the owner of the company or the CFO or whatever else they might want to be." And they take, 10, 15 years to get there, and then they finally get there. It's all a grind, but if you love what you do, then you have to see it as more than work. It's like I said, you start to love it. You have to enjoy it. Like, you can't go through this thing every day and not enjoy it. That's the whole thing about playing baseball and playing these sports. Like, the amount is people think that we really have off seasons because like there's nothing going on, but there's never an off season if you're a professional athlete because you're still working, you're still putting that stress and strain on your body to make sure that you're ready to go if you have an opportunity. Luckily, if you luckily have an opportunity the next year to play, because you see how many guys don't have jobs after each year. I've just been blessed to do it for 17.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, too. And then you ended up going to Japan after that. So what was the ultimate decision to go there?
To go to Japan, it was just the opportunity was better. The team I was with at the time, they told me that, I was going to have a chance to be on the big league team and that I would have to, like, they were probably going to, like, use my options and I was going to be sent up and down a little bit. Where going to Japan, I would be guaranteed, um, not only financially, but I would be guaranteed basically a spot on the team to help a team be in contention and be there all year and feel comfortable to a certain extent. I would have to fight for my job, but once I like won the job, like it was pretty much like we were good. So it was just that opportunity, really. That was the main thing, was the opportunity, and then also financially for my family. Like, it just made sense where, like, even the past couple of years I've been playing in the big leagues before this year, your salary gets dictated by where you're at, and it's a drastic drop off between the majors and the minors. So, being over in Japan, it was a chance to have a steady stream for the whole year and knowing exactly what I was going to make. So it was very nice. And like I said, it was just an opportunity to enjoy and go see another part of the world as well.
Yeah, no, and you did really well in Japan too. And that's why I wanted to ask you about, like, what, like, the culture and all that. Like, what, how big of a change was that for you, and like how did you adapt to that? Because you were there for 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah, I was there for 3.5, 4 years, somewhere in there. I just enjoyed it. Like, I went over there with the mindset I was just gonna have fun and just go play baseball, and then whatever else happened, happened. I was gonna do what I needed to do and help the team as much as I could and just enjoy the experience. A lot of guys go over there and try to put pressure on themselves or think that, they're better than some guys at certain points. Like, and that mentality, like, they play really good baseball over there. And baseball is a very humbling sport, and it can give you the most confidence in the world, and it can make you feel like the worst person and worst player in the world at the same time. So just going over there, like, I had some good success and I had fun and I enjoyed it. I just, again, worked at what I was doing, and I was just blessed and lucky enough to have as much success over there as I did. I was blessed to be on a really good team at the time, and we all just, like, we played really good baseball when I was over there, so it was really fun.
Yeah, and then how did the, like, MLB, did they, like, did scouts like see you, or like how did that come back that you got back with the MLB team?
It's actually crazy. My second year I was over in Japan, there's a clause in my contract where I couldn't talk to any Japanese teams, but I could talk to American teams and MLB teams. And I didn't hear from anybody, and I had a really good year, so it was kind of weird. And I was like, all right, whatever. And then the next year I had a pretty good year, but I was injured part of the year, and people don't know that my third year over there in Japan, my innings were down a little bit because I got injured and had a couple of nicks and still had a decent year, but ended up like trying to pitch through it and costing me a little bit here and there. But I didn't hear anything from anybody. And after my third year, I again had a pretty good year and I heard nothing. So I was just over in Japan, just working out, and I was having a son over there, and I was just hanging out and getting ready. And then finally I signed a deal in spring training that year with the Brewers in like February, like a week before spring training started. And people understand that was like one of the only like offers I had, which was unbelievable to me because I felt like I had pitched well enough to have better offers than that. But it is what it is. And then from there, that was what happened. I went to big league camp with the Brewers that year, and then ended up making the team a couple times throughout the year, getting put back on the roster, and then going back to Japan for a little bit, and then been home since.
Yeah, I'm assuming because of COVID, since there wasn't that much. I think they played 60 games that year, so you got to go to Japan again.
Yeah, I went back. I was signing up. I had an offer during that off season, between staying at home with the MLB and going to Japan, and I was trying to actually stay at home, but the Japanese teams gave me a couple better offers, and then it just worked out that my son was going to still be in Japan at the time too, so it just made more sense for me to go ahead and take the offer to go back to Japan for the COVID year, and that was just a crazy year where I ended up being in Japan and playing a couple games, and then coming back home and ended up like going to what was it, the little like alternate sites or whatever with the Cincinnati Reds or whatever. I ended up with the Cincinnati Reds for like a month that year too. So it was crazy. That was just a crazy year in general for everybody. So I'm glad that we got some baseball and got some sports out of it. But that was just a crazy year.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, so your son lives in Japan still?
I have a son in Japan. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. That's cool. Yeah, so going into now, you're on the Minnesota Twins, currently in their AAA system, correct?
I'm on the inactive list right now. I just got two PRPs a couple days ago. I've been kind of nicked up again this year and trying to pitch through a couple injuries. So finally got those addressed, and so we're gonna see where I'm gonna be once I finish my rehab. Right now, I'm just kind of floating like between like which where they're gonna put me.
Gotcha. Um, yeah. What's it been like? How is it? How have you been? How do you deal with like pretty much you've been moving like almost every year?
It sucks. It really does suck. And you want to be somewhere where you just want to feel wanted, really. And so that's what I've kind of been doing every year. I feel like is like you just go kind of where I'm either wanted or needed to help a team, be the best they can be and try to do the best they can. So I mean, does it suck being like that? Yeah, because you're not in a like solid space and you feel stable, and but I'm also very blessed that I've been able to play for as long as I have, and that teams have wanted me to play and have recognized my skill over these years. So I can't say enough about that. I'm grateful for that. But yeah, it sucks to not just be in one spot for an extended amount of time.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Rocco Baldelli is your manager. Is that I know, and you're older than me, so I know you definitely saw him playing. Was he playing when you? He must have been playing, right? So when you first came up, or when you first were in the minors, at least, though.
He was when I was in the minors, he was still playing, but when I got to the big leagues, he wasn't. Yeah.
Is
So
that like crazy to you to think about? Because when I just looked at it, I was like, yeah, that's crazy. Because I watched him like growing up, and now he's like a manager. I'm old.
yeah. Well, it's crazy because a lot of the guys that I've played with or played against are like coaches now in like the minors or even in the majors. I've like played against some guys that like I played against in the minors or played against in the majors a few times, and they're coaching and I'm still playing, and it's kind of funny. Even some of my coaches have been younger than me, so it's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's you know that it's getting to the tail end, and you get to kind of enjoy it and try to ride off into the sunset the best you can.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I feel like also like pitchers just like play longer than position players usually too. So it's like you got, I don't know. I feel like you got more time.
You get lucky, but there's also more pitchers that come in every year and take your job every year. So it's kind of crazy. Like if you're a position player and you're solid, like you normally have your position. Like they give you longer leashes, whereas a pitcher, they know that they have so many of us that like one game here or two games there, like you might never see the field again for a while. So it's a bit different, but at the same time, like we do have a tendency to have longer careers depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, let's get to some of the off the field stuff. I know you also have your own podcast, so tell me like what made you want to get into podcasting.
Well, I've had this idea with me and my co-host for probably like 2 or 3 years now. And so finally this year, when I didn't know if I was going to play or not, which is kind of crazy. Like after the year I had last year, people don't know this. I guess they might know this now. Is I didn't have a lot of offers to even play this year, so I didn't know if I was going to play or not. So I was getting into just the transition phase of what I was going to do after baseball, and podcasting and having a podcast since I was going to have time was one of the things I wanted to do. So since I was going to have time, I figured I would just jump into it. And so once I started it, I'm not going to stop something I started just because we're playing baseball. So we just try to make time for it. And it's just been so much fun to do, especially hearing all the old guys that I've played with and, played baseball with and, some of the coaches I had. And then we're trying to get some of the GMs we've had and just being able to chop it up and just have fun and enjoy each other's company and reminisce about the stories and like have guys on there that people have never heard of. And so people can possibly like look into like their stories and their numbers and, maybe ask some questions and dig deeper into the old baseball back in the day and the systems that they had and some of these guys and, become hopefully bigger fans of theirs.
Yeah, it's crazy too to think about sometimes when like I mean, it happens in all sports, but it's just like there's so many players that were great, and you don't know what they're doing now. So it's like you get those guys, and they're still like big names, but like they're just not in the mainstream media anymore. So it'd be cool to like hear people, people's stories in general. Like actually, like one of my favorite players growing up was Chuck Knobloch, and I got to interview him, and that was really
I
cool.
see.
Yeah, just to like, because I'm a Yankees fan too, so obviously uh, hearing all the stories about like winning the World Series and the dynasty and all that, so it was cool. Um, and he played for the Twins too.
He did. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so tell me about like what other things you do like to do like outside of baseball and like business and like things like you just were saying you were planning on your career after your career.
After my career, well, yeah, like I said, it was about to start this year, so it's kind of crazy how everything was going. But I'm thinking about doing some possibly like motivational speaking or doing some things like that, possibly just because everybody said they want to hear the story that I've had and the career I've had because like it's been like we said, a journey and like how have I had the mentality or whatever else to last this long in baseball with all kind of the crazy stories that I've had and all those crazy stories are going to end up coming out in a couple books that I'm writing right now. I'm in the process of writing my first book, and it should be out hopefully in October, November, and then from there we'll see what happens. Might get into some coaching, don't know yet, trying to figure that out, but just want to see where everything takes me. Have a marketing team to just kind of take care of some things for me off the field where I can just focus on baseball right now. And then after the season, just kind of, see what other business opportunities I have out there. Oh, in my clothing line as well. Yeah, clothing line, Team Jackson. That's just been something fun that I've just been doing over the years since I was in Japan.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Um, let's get into some fun questions. Why do they call you Smiley J?
That's not, that started in Japan. Just because like once I went over there, I got to finally be myself a little bit more. I felt like, and it was like a fresh start and I got to just be happy. And I was just so happy, first of all, that I was making guaranteed money. But second of all, I realized how much fun playing the baseball with a freedom that I had over there was. And so every time I would finish an inning, eat like, especially if it was clean, but especially if like I didn't give up the lead, I would just smile after I was done just because I was happy that I got the job done and that we were winning half the time because I was the setup guy. So after that, like every time I was smiling all the time, people called me Smiley J, and then it just kind of took off from there. I just stuck with it.
I like that. Do you know Japanese?
I used to. It's very bad now. I can pick up on it. Like when people are talking it, and I hear it and I can pick up certain words and I can like understand things here and there. So like it'll click back, but like nah, my Japanese is terrible now. It's trash.
How did you communicate with like your teammates?
We had translators, but I also had an assistant and translator like off the field as well. He was one of my good friends. Like he was half Japanese and half Australian. He would help me like whenever the translators weren't available. So I always had somebody around to help me at all times. But once I started getting there, I think my second year, I started picking up on more words and I was able to communicate better. And I was also taking Japanese lessons a little bit here and there as well.
Gotcha. What's your favorite stadium to pitch at
To pitch at,
besides Minnesota right now? Minnesota got to be number one right now.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if Minnesota's number one, like, because it's not a pitcher's ballpark either. Like, I've given up so many runs there. I don't know if it's my favorite place. But also, like, I feel like this year's just been, I've been pitching kind of banged up all year and nicked up that, like, I can't really count this year kind of the way I want to. But I'd say probably San Fran, just because it's more of a pitcher's park for sure.
All right. What about what's your favorite like city to visit? Like when you're traveling to these games? Like
When I'm traveling to games, um, San Diego by far. San Diego's favorite. San number one.
I heard like
Easy.
San Diego's
Easy.
literally the number one like place. Like
It's the best place. Yes. It's the happiest place in America. It's gotta be.
that's hilarious. Was there ever like a moment where you were like, "Wow, I'm facing X"?
I think that was my rookie year. After I made my debut, like one of my last appearances, I faced the Dodgers in Dodger Stadium. And I went, I think it was like Howie Kendrick, um, Adrian Gonzalez, and then one other person. And it was like, I can't believe I'm facing Adrian Gonzalez and all these guys for the Dodgers right now. And this was a rivalry game too, because we're the Padres. So it was just a bunch of star-studded teams going back and forth. But like, I got to pitch in a good situation. I faced like some really good hitters, and that was like one of the first times. After that, it was more like, okay, we're all on the same like playing field. But like that, I think that was the Adrian Gonzalez that first year was probably the first time I was like, yeah,
Who would you want to do a jersey exchange with that you haven't done one with?
probably Shohei.
Yeah,
Probably Shohei just because I've faced him so many times. I faced him in Japan and I faced him here. So um, to be able to face and do a jersey swap with Shohei again would be good. And to face Shohei when I'm at my best would be nice.
you got next time you gotta sharpen up your Japanese and ask him in Japanese, then he'll do it.
I think he probably would. I think he's good enough. He's a cool enough dude. He's very nice. So I think he probably would.
What is that? Is that crazy? Did you like go? I gotta ask you since you were playing in Japan, like seeing him in Japan, like did you know he was like gonna come to the major leagues and like dominate?
Yes, immediately. Him and I played on the same team as Seiya Suzuki that plays for the Cubs. And I told Seiya straight up, like one of the first years I played with him, I was like, bruh, whenever you get a chance, I was like, you gotta get out of here and go to America and play. I was like, you're so good, you have to go. But Otani, like, yeah, his transformation from when I played against him in Japan to like how he is now, it's night and day. It was not night and day. I saw the power and the ability then, but the just the physical stature of him now from then is just so crazy to see how much power he's put on now and the way he hits balls now and backspins balls now compared to even then. It's crazy to see transformation. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, for sure. Last one. What's your favorite cheat meal?
I mean, I feel like all my meals are cheat meals. I'm not like I'm not really too like stuck on a diet. I'd say like I try to just eat like the best I can, but like I don't eat a lot of sweets anyway. I think like my biggest cheat thing would probably be like pies, like sweet potato pie, blackberry pies, like cherry apple, like just pie or like cobblers. Like those are my two things. Like I'm in love with like a good like blackberry cobblers, like probably my favorite thing of all time.
All right, I like that. All right, Jay. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and could you let the listeners know where they can follow you on social media?
For sure. Everybody, you can follow me at Jaxland58, JAXLAND 58 on Instagram and Twitter. And then the Brushback Podcast, of course, with me and my boy T Rob. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter as well on all those. And also the clothing line, Team Jacksland. It's also on Twitter and on Instagram from time to time, but go check the website out, teamjacksland.com. But other than that, for sure, follow me at Jackson58. And thanks again for having me on here, Paul.